Welcome to Talent Bus, where I talk with SaaS companies on how they are doing their talent acquisition. Today I'm joined by Henri Nordström, CEO and co-founder of Jobilla, and we are discussing what recruitment industry could steal from sales and marketing. This includes things regarding on lead generation, how to do outbound in a more efficient way, how to do recruitment marketing, and much more. And let's start the discussion today from why recruitment industry would actually steal so much from sales and marketing.
Yeah. Actually, my background comes from sales. I have done sales almost all my adult career. I'm building businesses around sales. And I think this is one of the strengths when coming into the recruitment field is that I don't really come to the recruitment field with the standard ideas behind the recruitment. And actually one of the first things when I started working in this industry, now actually over 6 years ago, I started immediately figuring these challenges that the industry is facing because the mindset in this industry is really waiting for the candidates to apply for a job instead of the companies actively approaching the candidates. So this is the standard process in the recruitment industry. And especially now in the past, let's say 5 to 10 years, this industry has changed completely. When previously we had a lot of candidates applying for a jobs, now as we read the news, almost weekly, there is some news from some industry that there is a challenge finding the right candidates for the companies. But still the companies approach this challenge with the same mindset that they are waiting for the candidates to apply for a job instead of actively reaching the candidates. And I think this is exactly the main idea in sales and marketing is that you're never waiting passively for the customers to approach the company, but you actively either do marketing or selling activities towards the customers to get them to buy your product. And I think recruitment industry needs exactly this change.
Yeah. And I think we have quite similar backgrounds for sales. So interesting to kind of share some stories and things that we have learned from sales and what we could take to the kind of recruitment industry. And kind of if I think about kind of day-to-day life as a salesperson and kind of how to get customers. So as you describe over there, it's kind of ongoing active outreach that we are typically doing as a salesperson. Kind of before we hop into the kind of outreach itself or marketing itself, I think where I could start the discussion today is actually what happens before that one. And I think one thing that as a salesperson, I think a lot is like, who's our ideal customer? So which kind of customers I'm going after, who are the right buyers in those organizations, why they should be interested in our services at all, what is the challenge that we are kind of solving for those companies. And I think this is something that kind of recruitment could be stealing from there. So really making sure that you understand who are those people you want to recruit, which channels they are using and all that. But then maybe one kind of challenge as a salesperson comes quite often is like how you are different from other companies. So for example, us, recruitment agency, like how we are different from other recruitment agencies. And if we take kind of that thing, so positioning being different to kind of recruitment industry. So when you are looking for new employees, like how you should be approaching that one, like identifying, are we a different workplace really? And how to kind of message around those topics.
Yeah, I think this is one of the core things that often gets forgotten is like what needs to happen before the actual process starts. And I think you touched two very important components. One is you yourself identifying your strengths, but then also what strengths are you looking in your ideal candidate, and then how to match this message between this. And I think the mapping the strengths of the company, this is something that should happen all the time inside the company. So, and I think it doesn't continue for just mapping the strengths that you already have, but it should you should create plan how to create your company really as an environment that is attractive to the talent. But then starting from the then who is the talent that you should be attractive. So different people value very different things. And of course, if your company has only one target group, then this is much easier. Then you need to just find out what this target group values. But then, for example, in our company, we have more than 10 different target groups that we are looking. We have developers, salespeople, customer success people, all sorts of different positions, finance, and stuff. So we need to really think about different things that different people value and how to make the company attractive for the talent. But then it's not just how you do the messaging, but how you actually deliver the message. So I think this is also something that is very important in the sales. You know that when you promise something to the customer, you need to be also delivering what you promise. And this is very often forgotten when we talk about, for example, employer branding. It shouldn't be just how we can tell nice things about our company, but how we can tell the reality. And the reality should be nice. So if there is something wrong with the company, then there is a lot of challenges if the company does branding that doesn't match the reality. And then when we look at individually every single recruitment, I think whenever you start the recruiting process and mapping out the right target audience and the right we call it an ideal candidate profile. So the idea there is that we try to map out the person and really visualize what would the perfect candidate for this position look like, what kind of attributes they would have. First, we always start from the hard attributes, like what kind of skills, what kind of expertise, education, things like that this person should have. But then moving from there, the more softer values like what kind of personality, what kind of other types of softer values should this person have in order for them to fit into this team that you have. So I think this is very important to also know the strengths of the team and know how the team is operating so that we can map the profile that it fits to the existing team.
Yeah. And I think kind of with that one, you have the kind of background work done, and then we can go basically to the next step. So kind of contacting the candidates. And if we go back to sales and marketing for a while, so typically if we think about companies kind of getting new customers, there's typically basically two kind of ways of doing that one. There is a kind of marketing-led way, typically referred as inbound marketing, where the goal is to produce valuable content and be active on social media, do paid advertising, and through that one, get high-quality leads that you can then start a discussion, and eventually they become your customers. Or there is another way, typically referred as outbound, where you basically are doing cold calling, emailing people, reaching out to different social media channels, and basically doing outreach for those people. And if we look at then recruitment, in recruitment, we can do basically both things as well. So basically outbound recruitment and inbound recruitment. And I think in sales and marketing, there's been lately a lot of discussion that it needs to be either that, hey, I believe in outbound, that is all we do, or hey, we want to build an inbound engine. But at least I've noticed that if you combine the best part of the both worlds, you will get the best results. And if we now look at the recruitment and maybe start from the kind of more traditional way, so doing some kind of outreach. I think headhunting services has been there for a long time where companies are, for example, sending emails or sending messages on LinkedIn on, hey, we are looking for a new person to join our company. If we first talk about that part, what do you think that those recruiters or sourcers who are doing that active outreach on different channels, what they could learn from salespeople or steal from them?
I think this is basically a sales job. If you think about it in a way, your product is just selling the open position. So if I think about this industry of headhunting, I think if you want to be a great headhunter, you need to be a great salesperson. That's even though you wouldn't identify yourself as a salesperson, basically the job that you're doing is pretty similar than a job of a salesperson. And this is also something that when we discuss either the sales part of the recruitment or the marketing part of the recruitment, I think this is exactly the mindset that we should have. That we have a product, and the product that we are selling is this open job. And the beauty of recruitment is actually that all the companies in the world have basically similar product. If you're working in the automotive industry or you're a hospital, or then let's say you're making some kind of physical product, the companies are selling very different products to their customers. But then when we talk about recruiting, actually every single organization in the world has very similar product to sell. So this is why also I think recruitment industry is perfect industry for building very scalable good services to help organizations in this, because basically we can every single company can learn from each other in recruitment practices. And what you talked about outbound and inbound, so if we first talk about the outbound recruitment, I think there the idea should be looking at the target groups and how large the target audience is that I'm trying to target, and what is my end goal of how much people I need to recruit. So if we think about companies that need to, let's say we have a big hospital chain that needs to recruit hundreds of or thousands of nurses, for example, a year, building an outbound sales type of approach to this would not probably be the right option to pick, because the volumes are so high, and also the target groups that you're reaching are very high. So their inbound type methods should probably be the ones that you favor. It's, of course, like you said, it's not one or the other, but you should put more efforts on the inbound effort. Then if we talk about more targeted, specified jobs, let's say that you're wanting to hire a new CTO for your company, for example. So there it's more limited, the target groups that you can target. It's only one-time recruitment. You're doing it once. You're not recruiting 50 CTOs a year, or at least hopefully you're not doing this. There I think of course we can use the inbound methods to support this, but I think companies should at these kind of recruitments put more effort on the outbound type of methods.
Yeah, and I think for me, if I think about kind of super maybe actionable tips for the outbound recruitment that I've been utilizing in sales, and I noticed that maybe recruiters could steal from there. First thing kind of regarding the outreach itself. So kind of as a salesperson, a few years back, for example, utilizing LinkedIn and just sending messages over there worked extremely well, for example, in the Finnish market, because there wasn't that many salespeople actually doing it back then. But in the kind of last 12 months, a lot of salespeople have been kind of activating over there. And what I started to do as a salesperson was to use video messages over there. And that actually worked very well because no one else was doing that same thing. And now when kind of moving to recruitment industry, I noticed the same thing happening there. So basically every recruiter does the text-based messages on LinkedIn. So we have been, for example, testing right now, doing a video messaging on LinkedIn for potential candidates. And that is working very well. And then another thing that I've been noticing kind of as a salesperson, when I get a no from a customer during their first outreach, I always try to kind of gather some information from there. Basically for two reasons. First, I think it's super kind of relevant information from the market that we can utilize for developing our services, developing our sales. But then another thing is that if I get that additional information, then it's easier for me to sell in the future. And if we take the same thing in the recruitment, and I think this is super simple. So let's say that you have sent outreach message on LinkedIn for, let's say, senior developer, and you are looking to hire someone like that. And then that person just said no. I think what most people in recruitment industry still do is just answer politely like, hey, thanks for letting me know and have a great end of the year or something like that. But I think that is a valuable place to add some kind of information to yourself. So basically, for example, asking a question like, hey, thanks for letting me know. Do you mind asking, was it more about the timing not being right, or was this completely a profile that you are not interested at? And with that, you actually might open up that discussion with the potential candidate. I think it's super valuable information if they say that, well, actually, the role was interesting, but I just got promoted in my current place, or actually, I'm not interested in this kind of role, but I am actively looking for a job. So really kind of somehow answering for the no's and really trying to dig in deeper from there would be my advice as well.
Yeah, I think this is super good advice, and I think this is actually something that you should use in every stage of the recruitment process. Because something that I have also learned in the company, like the recruitments that we have done for our company and in a very important roles, that very often the people that have been then one of the best hires have not been the easiest hires. So because if we look at the recruitment market now, it's in most of the positions, the best candidates are already in the jobs, and also the best candidates often perform very well in their existing jobs. They are relatively satisfied in many cases, and in this case, in order to recruit them, you need to really convince the candidate why you have something to offer that the other company, for example, their existing job, or then the other offers that they might have already on the table, why you're the best option there. And some of the best people we have hired, we have met 5-6 times and had very long discussions. And the first phase might have been very pessimistic and like very skeptical starting point. But then when you build up the trust and within each other, and then you get to learn each other, and you can really showcase the benefits and showcase what you can offer, and actually the candidates might get very excited, and then finally it might end up to become very, very successful hire. So very, very good tip, I think.
Yeah, totally agree on that one. Hey, then let's hop from the outbound recruitment to inbound recruitment. And once again, maybe quickly go back to marketing. So if we think about typical ways of doing basically inbound marketing, there's typically 2 ways. So there's the kind of long-term game, which is often referred as kind of brand marketing. And in recruitment, typically kind of we are talking about employer branding. And then there is kind of the short-term activities that are really focused on the kind of current roles that you are having open. Typically, it's about recruitment marketing or kind of lead generation towards those roles. And maybe kind of I can give kind of few thoughts on the employer branding first, and then you can give some tips on the lead generation part. But for them, kind of employer branding, so that is long-term. And actually, what I believe is that employer branding won't solve your hiring needs for the next 12 months. Kind of taking time to build that brand, it always takes time. So with employer branding, you should be really focusing on the long-term goals of your business. What kind of people do I need 12 months from now, 24 months from now, 36 months from now? And on that one, I believe that you should be focusing on the kind of bigger picture as a company. So why your company is there in the first place for the employees? Like, why should anyone join your company? Talk openly about your culture, your values. And when I say that, I personally believe that you shouldn't be actually talking about your kind of company values, like, hey, these are our company values. But rather think real life stories from your company, highlighting those values or highlighting those cultures. And the one thing that has been working extremely well, for example, for us and for our customers, is actually talking super openly about things. So every company has those good things, but there are also those bad things. So and really highlighting both sides of the company. And if there's some challenges, talking super like openly about those. And for example, for career stories with employees who have left your company, they are actually super powerful. And people are super interested actually learning and reading those, like why someone joined the company, what they enjoyed, and why that person eventually leave the company. Because it's way easier to kind of believe those people who have already left the company than those people who are in the company at the moment. They kind of need to be selling the company. So there's kind of few ideas regarding the kind of employer branding side of things. But then the lead generation, recruitment marketing, I think this is where you have the kind of lot of good learnings and ideas. So can you share like how do you think companies should be kind of approaching that one, and really kind of why the old way of thinking like, hey, send us your cover letter and CV is dead, and why companies should be really focusing on lead generation on their recruitment?
Yeah. I think this is really the topic that we have been working for now almost 7 years, and it's really close to our heart, and how to build in the really working recruitment marketing, and when coming to the expertise of the lead generation in recruitment marketing, we did actually last year over 7,000 lead generation campaigns to different companies in almost 50 different countries. So this is a topic that we have a lot of expertise on, and but actually we have done a lot of employer branding campaigns also in the history of the company, and we are still doing employer branding projects. But the reason why we have moved more from the employer branding to lead generation is actually that there is very little, or actually very few companies actually providing this type of services today, because the real big challenge with lead generation is that it's really hard, like it's hard to deliver the results, and you actually need to deliver the results in every single recruitment campaign that you do. Employer branding and brand marketing in general is, like you said, you don't need to get measurable results immediately, and you build it more for the long term. And of course, it's very important for the company to build also the long-term brand. But then the really concrete needs that the companies have today, they have open positions, they need to fill them in immediately. And very often we are in a situation where then companies are forced to use the outbound methods because the inbound methods are not working today. And I think when we go to the inbound marketing in recruitment, this is something that it goes to like optimizing small details in the process. First, you need to get the big pieces working. One thing is what is the biggest conversion killer in the recruitment marketing is the traditional application process. So this is really something that what you said already, that we should do lead generation in recruitment. So the very first mindset that we need to change in recruiting is that we think the candidates as applicants, because applicant as a word even means that there is somebody who is there ready to apply for your job, which is in many cases not the reality anymore. There is just potential people who are happily working in their existing jobs, and you need to target them using some sort of targeted marketing method. But then the very, very important part after that is that you don't treat these people as they would be your applicants, ready to apply for the job, ready to do cover letters and fill long application forms. But they should be treated as potential customers are treated in the sales funnels. So you make it very easy for them. You ask only the most relevant questions. You optimize every second that they spend in the process, because you know that every time you add their additional 10 to 30 seconds, even a lot of potential candidates are dropping out from your funnel. So, and then, of course, very important part when doing marketing is then analytics. So you need to analyze every single step of the process, and you need to know what is the bottleneck in the process using numbers, because otherwise you're just working blind. You're just guessing. You might think that something that you're doing is really working, but it's not actually working. And this is really a big challenge in the recruitment industry right now, that things are not getting measured. And this is also reason why there is so much really old-fashioned processes that companies still use that are not working anymore. But because there is lack of analytics and companies don't really see that this is the phase where candidates drop out, then you just continue doing the same things.
Yeah, that is a big problem in the market. And even though we are kind of currently a service business around recruitment and employer branding, we are all the time thinking about like different kind of tech options that we could be kind of start building to make things even more efficient. And I feel like we keep coming back to the data and analytics all the time because that is really a big problem in the market. One interesting thing you mentioned there was regarding the kind of time spent with the candidates. And what I've noticed lately is that there's a lot of LinkedIn posts around like, hey, your recruitment process should be shorter. It shouldn't have that many steps. And at the same time, I agree. But then at the same time, I disagree with that one. And I think what actually creates the problem in the first place is actually not the time used for the recruitment process, but it's about what happens in that time. So if we look at the kind of traditional recruitment process and the interviews, they really are interviews. So I'm using first 1 hour of my time with let's say a recruiter, only asking questions from me like, hey, what's your background? Where are your skills? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Then you have a second call with a hiring manager asking same questions. Then you have a third call where you have a task where you need to prepare. Then you have a fourth call asking some more questions from you. And that kind of makes a problem. So all of those stages are typically actually company demanding something from the candidate. And kind of if you do it that way, it really is maybe kind of time spent in a not that good way from a candidate's perspective. So they think that, hey, now I'm spending time here. But what we have been trying to do, for example, in our own recruitment process is actually turn the thing completely upside down. So kind of thinking, what is the value that the candidate is getting from all of the different stages? And I think that's kind of good practice for everyone. For example, write down all the steps that you have in your recruitment process, starting from your marketing or your outreach to your career page, first interview, second interview, task, and write down two things. What is the feeling of the candidates in each stage, and what is the value that the candidate is getting from each stages? And if you can't think about the value that the candidate is getting in each stage, then maybe that is something to consider doing. And for example, for us, like we have, just give a few examples. First, kind of regarding for nurturing, we actually have a kind of monthly session together with potential employees where we have really value-added content for them regarding like the biggest trends in recruitment and employer branding. And a lot of people do want to participate in those. It's not about us asking questions from them. It's really providing value. Or we do a growth plan for every person who basically is in our recruitment process until the end, where we either offer them a job with a growth plan, like, hey, here are the things that we think you would be growing. Here is some kind of great additional materials for you to study and all that. And at the same time, for people we say no in the end, we also create a growth plan. Like, hey, at this stage, we are not offering a place for you, but we did this growth plan for you. And by doing these things, we believe that you will grow as a professional and maybe someday you can join Talent B. So really thinking it from a way that not what you are getting from the steps as a company, but what the candidate or what the kind of potential customers is getting from the different stages.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right in the point. And if we think about making recruitment process shorter, I think you should more think about how to take the irrelevant hustle away from the process, how to take away the things from the process that frustrates the candidate, and how then to add to the recruitment process things that actually add value to the candidate, exactly like you said. So if we think about, I like to think about the recruitment process as a marketing funnel, in the same way as you think about it there. You have your potential customers, and then it goes down the funnel, and finally then you have hire here in the funnel. And the challenge in the traditional recruitment process is that in the beginning of the funnel, to even get the candidate inside the funnel, there is a lot of hustle and a lot of work and a lot of effort that the candidate needs to put in in order to even get inside your funnel. So if you think about the traditional application form, for example, on average, it takes on average about 3 hours to fill an application form in the traditional recruitment process. And if we think this alone, if we think about that, there would be a company that before you get to even talk with the salesperson in the company, you should first fill 3 hours of different forms before being able to talk with your salesperson. So this kind of company would not have a lot of customers. And this is also companies, when they have this type of process, they then wonder why they don't have a lot of candidates in the process. Their recruiters, so like recruitment salespeople, are waiting for the leads, candidates to come and talk to them, but then they wonder, oh, where is my candidate? But the very first challenge starts with like asking too much in the beginning of the process. So I think the first barrier of entry should be very low. It should be super easy. In our idea there that we have been sharing is that the first conversion should happen in less than 3 minutes. That should be the guideline there. That before you have your the phone number and email and the contact information of the candidate, this should happen in less than 3 minutes from the first point of contact where the candidate has seen your recruitment ad. Then you know that they are in relatively safe waters in there, and you're not losing too much candidates because of too complex process. But I think after the conversion has been done, that you actually have the candidate in your funnel, then it comes exactly what you said, that there you shouldn't optimize too much, but there it comes exactly to the point that how much value you can add to the candidate. Because this is also something that we need to think about this also from the eyes of the salesperson, that this candidate that has came through our funnel, they are not ready yet to change the job to our company. But they need to, of course, convince us that they are the potential candidate. But in this funnel, we need to convince them that we are the right employer for them. And this sometimes takes a lot of time. Like in sales, we know that before you get the sale with the customer, sometimes you might need 1 meeting, sometimes you might need 3 meetings, sometimes you might need 10 meetings to get a sale with the customer. And it's exactly the same with the candidates. Sometimes you might get in 1, 2, 3 meetings, everything's matching perfectly and you're making the decision to change the job. But like I've said before, with some of the best candidates I've ever recruited, there has been 6, 7, 9, 10 meetings before we have actually decided to start working together.
Yeah, and I think really the kind of selling the company during the interviews is important, kind of finding the balance there, like kind of selling enough, not overselling. And I still actually remember, if I remember correctly, it was the first time we met. It was roughly 5 years ago when I was looking for a new job, and I visited. Quite sure it was one of your first offices. There was you, and then there was Tommy, and you guys interviewed me, tried to sell your big vision of Jobilla at that time, like how it will become a kind of big, great company. Now, 5 years after, it's kind of fun to see where you have ended up, where I have ended up. But what's your kind of take on that one? Like, if you think nowadays, for example, selling your workplace for potential candidates, like how do you do it, and kind of what's your approach on that one?
Yeah, I think it's exactly like you mentioned the meeting that we had. Okay, of course, it's your opinion if it was too much of selling, but I think relatively often companies fall into the other trap, which is not selling enough of their company and their vision. And of course, it's then if the candidate then believes in your vision. This, of course, when you're very, very small startup that we were at that time, of course, it comes really much down to if the candidate actually believes that you're going to deliver what you're going to promise. Okay, this is, of course, something that you don't know at this point. Are you going to deliver? Fortunately, we have had a lot of luck and we have put a lot of work into this, but we have managed to actually turn from startup to scale up, and now we have over 150 employees in multiple different countries now. So So things have turned out great. But in this stage, especially when you're very small, it's really up to if the people believe in your vision or if they don't. And the people who did at that time, there are actually a lot of people still in there. But I think it's also a very important starting point, because I think if the person that you recruit comes to the company believing in the same things that you believe, I think it creates this very strong bond also. So I think it's something that is also very overlooked in the recruitment process. I think it's like foundation to the work experience and the whole journey with the candidate together. And if it all starts from the both candidate and company sharing the same vision and sharing the same ambitions, I think it's very, very strong and strong foundation then for long and very successful career for both the employer and the employee. So I would encourage companies to rather fall into the trap of overselling than underselling. But of course there needs to be the balance of not crossing the line that you actually believe in, that you share enthusiastically what you believe about your own company. And of course, you should be excited yourself of the opportunity that you're offering. If you're not excited as a recruiter of an opportunity that you're offering the candidate, then probably you should yourself think if this is the right job that I'm doing, and if this is the right company that I'm representing. Because I think best recruitments are done if the recruiter genuinely believes that the opportunity that they offer is amazing to the candidate.
And that's a wrap for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. Hopefully you got a lot of good ideas about SaaS talent acquisition. If you enjoyed the episode, feel free to share it on your social so others can hear it too. And if you have a topic in mind that you would like me to cover in this podcast, share it with me as well. I'm Samuli, CEO and co-founder in TalentBee, where we help fast-growing SaaS companies in their talent acquisition. Make sure to follow us, make sure to follow this podcast, and have an awesome week. Bye-bye.